भगवत्पादं शङ्करं लोकशङ्करं शङ्करं शङ्कराचार्यं केशवं बादरायणं सूत्रभाष्यकृतौ वन्दे भगवन्तौ पुनः पुनः ईश्वरो गुरुरात्मेति मूर्तिभेदविभागिने व्योमवद्व्याप्तदेहाय दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। गुकारस्त्वन्धकारो वै ऋकारस्त्वनिवर्तकः अन्धकारनिरोधित्वात् गुरुरित्यभिधीयते। सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्। ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यङ्करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। So, let's do a little bit of revision from the last class. And I was just thinking to remind you that a very useful habit to have is to review the previous class even if it's for a short time, the notes from the previous class for 5 or 10 minutes, really all that it takes, will be very useful for a sense of continuity and a sense of revision, so that those ideas are freshened up. So I really highly recommend it. If you haven't been doing that, try it, and I think you will find that this will be very useful to you. So anyway, we were looking into some of the skills required to make this journey. And so we saw the advice from Adi Shankara, Arudhasya Vivekashvam Tivra Vairagya Khadginaha Titiksha Vartma Yuktasya Pratiyogina Drishyate. He says if you can do just these three things, you'll find that there is no obstacle in your path to reach an amazing state in this life itself where you're completely free of all problems of life. Pratiyogi means a obstacle, something that obstructs you. Pratiyogi na drishyate. We don't find it's nirankusham. So the three things are riding on the horse of Viveka. Viveka Ashvam Arudhasya. So the Viveka here, it doesn't mean that just hearing about Atma and Atma Viveka once, but to really see the truth of it throughout your life in various ways, various situations, and so on, as we will be discussing it. So this is what it's called, the riding the horse of Viveka. And this simile that is being presented here is very carefully constructed, because riding a horse is a skill. Once you've mastered it, then the horse becomes your friend, and you can just ask it to go anywhere. If you don't know how to ride a horse, it can throw you off, and you can get frustrated. So that's why the simile of a horse is given. Then in the simile of a person who is really going to war in your life to conquer all the enemies, you need to have some weapons like a sword. And so here the Tivra Vairagya is the sword. So we'll be discussing more about Tivra Vairagya, but it means a commitment, a very sharp commitment, very deep commitment to not be bothered, not let the world bother you. And so you cannot just say it and do it, but there are many ways of understanding how that is to be done, and this is what we are discussing. But anyway, at least the goal of these three things should be kept in mind. Number one, riding the horse of Viveka. Number two, having the sword of Vairagya. And the third one is Titiksha Vartma Yuktasya. So Titiksha here means that anytime something comes up, you cannot just lay down and say, okay, I can't do it. So have the courage, because unless you really have a habit of overcoming obstacles slowly, then the advantages of Viveka and Vairagya. Viveka and Vairagya are the two main things in life, really. So, Arudasya Vivekashvam Tivra Vairagya Khadganaginaha cannot be made effective unless you have an armor of Titiksha. So Titiksha here means not to be very bothered by small things that happen in your life. Just ignore them. Let them go. And you will be talking about all of them. And so that is called the Vartma. Vartma means an armor, where you have gloves and you have probably a very important Vartma is shoes. You know, if you don't have shoes, then you are very vulnerable to every little pebble and a nail and all kinds of things. But if you have shoes, you have an armor of some kind. Similarly, we need to have a mental armor as well. Anyway, all of those kinds of things. So this is the start of this section. We will go into quite deep today also on what does it mean. So there we saw another revision of that we need to overcome what the world throws at us. It's very obvious, because if we don't, we succumb to it. And ultimately we have to give up the life and start all over again. So that battle of, this is exactly what Arjuna was told, this is a battle of Pandava and Kaurava is really a battle of life. And so the question is, how do we win the battle? And so in winning the battle, it was pointed out, just a very quick revision, that really you need to take care of two things. And if you recall what we were, if you had studied it, you would have immediately said Shoka and Moha. So both Shoka and Moha we will explore in more detail. And so really you cannot focus on the outside world because it is too vast and too unpredictable and too confusing. There's things coming at you from various directions and you don't know what to. It's like having multiple armies who are attacking you, and you don't, if you go this way, then the other person attacks you from the left or right or whatever. But if you reduce the battle of life into the battle against two very clear enemies, Shoka and Moha, you have a chance to defeat the world. If you don't simplify it and don't focus on it, your chances of defeating are much less. So this is the advice given by our acharyas, that really just focus on, bring it down to a couple of very important things, Shoka and Moha. So we will go into both of them in some more detail today. So we did that. So then the next thing we saw was next thing we saw was that we need to recognize the powerful enemies that are keeping us from winning the battle of the world, which is Shoka and Moha. And in doing so, we should recognize that there are two factors that are undermining you. Two factors that you need to take on in order to successfully wage a battle against Shoka and Moha. And those are Ahamkara and your own buddhi. A sense of who you are. This is me. And this is very entrenched, very pakka, as we say in Hindi. Very entrenched and very pakka. It's kind of like a stone which has been well dug down and doesn't move easily. You cannot dislodge it easily, which is me. And then you just say, whoever I am, I have some problems and so on, but that's me. I have to solve it. So this me, Ahamkara. And we saw that this is not a special ego, but just a normal sense of I-ness. So in the Panchakosha Viveka, this is also called Vijnanamaya Kosha. So Manomaya Kosha and then Vijnanamaya Kosha. So the Vijnanamaya Kosha is me. And then you have a buddhi which is thinking, the ability to think properly. So there the manaha and buddhi are slightly different. As you know, I'm just revising it for you because I want to utilize these in going forward. So I'm not telling you something new. So the manaha is to resolve some doubts. And buddhi is based on the ability to know. A simple example is that you don't know whether you turned the stove off when you went to the house, and then you're not sure. I think I turned it off. And he says, maybe I didn't. Maybe I should go back. And you're already on the road, and you're not sure of it. So this is sankalpa vikalpa. You're not sure whether you turned the stove off. And then you can somebody can say, you know what? I know we have been negligent in doing so. I double checked it. I know it. So that knowledge that we turned it off is buddhi. And the doubtful thing is manaha. So there's some difference between manaha and buddhi. Anyway, so the example here are two things, ahamkara and buddhi. Both of them conspire against you from making roads into complete freedom. This we have to understand. What? I am conspiring against myself? How? So there we saw an example that if in the Shri Rudram, in the third Anuvaka, the various kinds of thieves that rob you, robbers and thieves, were talked about in that third Anuvaka. And so there was a So there was a verse which says, Namo vanchate parivanchate stayunam pataye namaha. So this was a verse in the third Anuvaka of Sri Rudram. And so there's Tayunam. If you follow the translation by Puja Swami Dayanandji on that blue book, which I don't have in front of me, very good, very well written book also. So the Tayunam there refers to a thief who outwardly is your friend. See, there are different kind of thieves and robbers. So there's one kind of robber who can, happens every day. I just read about this person who was walking on University Avenue in Palo Alto, and two people came up to him and just robbed him. And they let him go. He didn't kill him or anything. And so this is one kind of robber. And so they were unfriendly from the get-go. But then there are other people who are very friendly to you, but actually rob you. So we have a big story about that which is coming up. And so I want to spend some time on it. It's a very important story in our lives, for the progress in our lives. And so these are those, the buddhi and ahamkara are those type of thieves that appear very friendly to us. Because who is the most friendly person to myself? Myself. So how can I be acting against it? We do. Because there is something even more important that I have to grasp, and they prevent me from getting the more important thing. This is how they rob you. They prevent you. So it'll come to in a story. So there, the ahamkara is the main one. The buddhi is a side kick. See, the buddhi is used by ahamkara, and it says, okay, what do you think? What should we do? The buddhi says, let's just enjoy. And so here comes along Shastra, which says, both of you are problems and we need to eliminate both of you. So to which the ahamkara goes back to the buddhi and say, you're going to let that happen? Do you know what that means to us? You and I are enjoying life. Yeah, there are some problems, but more or less we are okay. And they want to really remove us completely. Do you think that makes any sense? The buddhi says, no, doesn't make any sense to me. So ahamkara says, listen, we're not going to do that. You and I are together. We are not going to let Shastra eliminate us. Okay? All right? Is that clear? Says, yes. Okay, fine, good. Let's resume our business. So this is the situation. All right, so now let us go into a story. We'll go into this important story. The story is the following. The story is that there was a king who inherited his kingdom from his father. So this is kind of an interesting thing, because why did we talk about inheriting? Because you didn't struggle to become the king yourself. The kingdom was given to you. And so we will see when the story becomes relevant in our life, how this kingdom is given to me. So this story is about a person who inherited a well-run, large kingdom. This is the story. And the person was very fond of having fun and music and dancing and so on and so forth. And he would run, he had a coterie of people. And one thing is important, there's a chief minister who is the wise person who is running this kingdom for him, and assisting him are a number of other people, and the whole kingdom consists of many villages, and each of the subcategories of his courtiers were given responsibility for, okay, this village belongs to your family, that village belongs to your family, you run it the way you want to do it, but please just make sure that money is collected and the kingdom is run, and so on. So now what happened was that pretty soon it was found that this king is really not paying attention to the running of the kingdom. He's much more interested in having fun and games. And so there's always a chance for people to get more than their share. They already were courtiers and they were all appointed and they were making good money, but they were more greedy. They wanted even more than that. So pretty soon they found that this man would have parties outside, and then they would just be all music and fun and so on and so forth. He wasn't paying any attention to the exchequer. So they started to pilfer from his kingdom. So as the story goes, so pay attention to all the interesting steps, because they will have a direct bearing into our lives. One day, they were having a big party outside, and there was music and dancing and so on. In the evening, there so happens that on the forested area outside the kingdom of the palace, there was the cries of jackals. And in India and Hindi it's called Gidar. So Gidar means a jackal. You don't see them in the village, in the cities here, but they have a habit of crying as though they are calling somebody who's lost and so on. And many of us have actually heard that when we were growing up in India. It's a very distinct cry. And so the king had never heard that. He says, "What is that? What is that?" So he said, "Sir, these are these animals called jackals. And they're saying that everybody has food in your place and so on. They don't have any food, and so they're crying about it." He says, "I want my kingdom to be completely happy. Make sure you give them food. How much is necessary?" So they prepared a budget, 2 lakhs and so on and so forth. He says, "Done. All right." Then after a few days, he heard the same cry in the evening. It generally happens in the evening, just before sunset. So he says, "What's the matter now? I thought that we gave them food." He says, "Sir, they are saying that they don't have any really houses to live. And everybody else has got nice shelters, but they are also very cold and so on." So he says, "Okay, no problems. Just give them some money, whatever it is." He told his accountant, "Just find out how much it is." So they got the money and so on. Same thing happened in the rainy season. Again, 3 or 4 times that happened. And so pretty soon, his accountant came up to him and he said, "Sir, our exchequer is really short of money, and we don't know where all this money is going." So he says, "Okay, I'm going to get a new accountant, and a strong one." And so then he says, make an analysis of where this money is going. And so this guy says, "Sir, I think that it is going someplace where it is not accountable for. The best thing is to actually go there and look at it." So he says, "Okay, let's do that then. I'm really woken up. I don't want anybody to gyp me." So he told the Prime Minister, he says, "Prime Minister, please make arrangements for us to go to these villages where this sound is coming, and I want to make sure that they have houses and food and so on. So the Prime Minister said, "Sir, these are very awkward places to go. Your main, your vehicle cannot really go there. Why do you want to bother about it? Let us do it. Or we will take care of it. You please just rest. Your job is to be a king. You don't worry." So this new accountant said, "Sir, please don't give in, because there is something funny going on. We have to go and we have to really figure out what's going on." So he says, "No, I'm going to go." At that point, the Prime Minister, just being fully exposed, fell at his feet and he said, "Sir, there is no villages, there is no houses, there is no food. We are the ones who are really the jackals, and I'm very sorry that we have just gypped you for all this along." So he fired everybody. And this is what the story goes. Okay. All right, so this is the story. Now let us see the applicability of that story to us. So here, what is said is that Ishvara has given a kingdom to each one of us at the beginning of our life. And the kingdom, so we are the king of our own life's kingdom. We are the Raja, we are the king. And as such, we are given a prime minister, and the prime minister is the Ahamkara. And along with the prime minister, we are given a coterie of different courtiers to help us run our kingdom. So this is actually talked about in Upanishads, in the Prashna Upanishad. Prashna Upanishad, as you know, has 6 different questions that are asked about this. There are 6 different people with 6 different doubts. They all went to this Mahatma and says, "Sir, can you please help us? We have all these questions." So this is the third, in the discussion of the third question, Tritiya Prashnaha, where the Mahatma is explaining the role of prana in the running of your life. So there it says, so this is given in the Prana Shakti, and third Prashna, third question, section 4, 3-4, you will see this. Yatha samrat eva adhikritan viniyungte etan graman adhitishtasva. This is not a complete sentence, there's some other more, but this is the important one for us, for our purposes. Yatha samrat eva adhikritan viniyungte. So he says, just like a king, he has appointed the various courtiers to manage the different parts of the kingdom. Etan graman adhitishtasva. You take care of that village, you take care of that village, you take care of that village. Everybody has been given responsibility. And so then you say, okay, now that everybody is doing it, I can relax. It's all done. Similarly, what happens is that Ishvara, at the beginning of our life, gives us the control of our own kingdom. This is my life, my kingdom. And I have some help in running this kingdom. So I tell the eyes, you see things to make sure they do not attack me. Is that clear? And the eye says, yes, sir. If I see something who is an enemy, I will let you know right away. Okay? It goes to the nose and said, you please take care of the faculty of smelling. If something doesn't seem right, you please let me know. Examine it. You know, this happens once in a while where if you have leftovers in your refrigerator and some leftovers have been sitting there for more than what you want. And sometimes, we have, my wife and I would make some lentil dal, and we cannot finish it, so we just leave it there. And we forget about it. There are other foods that come in the picture, and we go outside or whatever. And then we look at this dal and we say, I wonder if this is still okay. And on the surface, it looks okay. The eyes says, I don't know, everything looks fine to me. The nose, you open it up and you ask the nose, is this okay? And the nose smells it and he says, nope, this doesn't smell good. Thank you, nose. You did your job. Because even before any white things come out on the surface, it doesn't. You can even close your eyes and smell it and says, this doesn't smell well. Just throw it away. So the nose has been given responsibility. Ears. Please keep yourself open. If there is any sound, unusual sound, sound an alarm right away. And I remember this, it was interesting, in my father's house when he was, so my father was a mining manager, very senior mining manager. And he was in charge of a coal mine in the Bihar state of Jharia. And so the area is all very jungle. It's really just the coal mine, huge coal mine with thousands of people working, but it's in the middle of nowhere. I grew up in this place where there were snakes and wild animals and so on. Anyway, just to shorten the story, so what happened was that there were also a lot of robberies and dacoits. So, and we had people that could tell us that there is something going on. So one time I'm told, my father was told that there are some gangs of dacoits who want to attack your home. Because they think that you have some jewelry and valuables in your home. And we don't know when they are going to come, but they have decided we are going to rob the Kapoors in this house. And I still recall that for several nights, our house, which was in a big, it's about six acres of land, and in the middle of that there was this beautiful house built by the Britishers, really. My father was the first Indian to occupy that. And in the middle of the night, the house was occupied by 4 or 5 or perhaps 6 even, in various places, of people with guns in their hands, each looking in different direction for any sound that might come, because they had to really keep their ears open and say, is there people coming in from there or there or there? And also we have to let the people know that we are prepared. That worked because it was never consummated. So we kept these people for like several weeks. Every night they were asked to come in, stay all night long. You believe that? And so anyway, so I still remember the important thing was to keep the ears very close to the ground and see if there are some rustling of leaves of people coming through. So similarly we have all these responsibilities given to the various faculties as though in my own kingdom. This is how the kingdom runs. Otherwise I won't be able to function in my life. Then the mind. The mind is given the responsibility. Think. Think, is this a good person or is it not a good person? Is this a good area that we should go to or not? Then finally the viveka, done by the buddhi. Sometimes the mind cannot really make up the mind, but the buddhi is the one, based on past experiences, makes the right decision. So this is exactly the situation that we have. And doing so, the Raja is now relaxed, and in the process of relaxation has become what is called pramadi. So if you look at the literature in Vedanta, this word is used quite often. Pramada na kuryat. Please be alert. Pramada means have ennui, carelessness, sleepiness, casualness, postponement. It's okay, this will be done, it's not a big deal, and so on. Pramada means that you're like a loose pajama. Swami Dayanand used to use that expression. That is like a loose pajama. It's not finely, nicely creased pants that you're wearing. Your mind is just loose and floppy. And you just let things go. And you're really not in control of it. This is called a pramada. And so now the pramada comes in where you have abdicated your responsibility to the householders, to the courtiers, to your Ahamkara, to your buddhi, to your mind. And you sacrifice your own happiness many times in just following them as it happens. And so the eyes say, we want to see this movie. We should go and see this movie. And I don't care what time it takes, but we must see this movie. So you follow the likes of the eyes and say that movie has to be seen. And so similarly, this is exactly what happens. Your people say, okay, if you do some work for a while, we'll give you this reward. The mom says, okay, baby, you finish your homework, I'll give you a chocolate. And so similarly, in our adults also, you find, Swami Maheshananji says, many times I find people who are doing overtime, have double duties, 2 jobs. And you say, why are you working so hard? Oh, I want to buy that condominium. I don't have enough money for it, I'm saving for it. So you just work like a dog for a while so that you can go at the end of the rainbow and get that condominium, buy that condominium, be able to pay for the so on and so forth. So this is what our life is, that we really just abdicate our responsibility to the running of the show by these courtiers. And the courtiers actually courtiers means all the indriyas, eyes, ears, buddhi, ahamkara, everybody. they actually mistreat me. They mistreat me. We regret that we followed them, and then we confront them and says, why did you let me do that? He says, that's my question to you. Why did you follow me? Why don't you make up your own decision? You know, Swami Maheshananji says that in India this happens all the time. You're going on the road, walking there and so on, and all of a sudden there's this chaatwala on the side of the road with all these fully puffed up golgappas and pani and chaat and so on. And so your mind and your all the senses say, oh, I think we should have that. Yeah, it'll be so wonderful. And everybody else is staying there enjoying themselves and so on. You try to avoid it, but then you come back and he says, okay, we'll just have it. And it turns out that the water there is not pure. And you have your golgappa, you enjoy yourself and so on. And then, as has happened to many of us that have gone from US, we don't have that immunity. You fall sick. You fall sick and you have a gastroenteritis problem many times because the water is not good. And you ask your mind, he said, why? I shouldn't have done that. Why did you let me do that? The mind says, why did you listen to me? You're supposed to be the master and I'm the servant. And instead you're following me. And now I think you are bothering me by saying, why did I do that? So first of all, it attracts your wrong decisions. And on top of that, it gets mad at you for saying, why did you obey me? It's a very difficult life. So he says, so this is the situation. So in this story, Swami Maheshananji says, now the story that we saw about this howling of the jackals. You know what the jackals are in our life? The jackals are friends telling us, you have not seen this movie? This is on Netflix. Everybody else has seen it. How come you don't see it? Oh, I don't know. I don't have the... No, but you cannot do this. This is a very important... You'll have so much fun. And it is something worth seeing. So you go and see the movie on Netflix. Another jackal comes in, supposing your first time you didn't do it, there was a braying of another jackal which says, my goodness, I don't know about that movie, but you have to see this new other movie called Bahubali. And you haven't seen Bahubali? Oh my gosh, what is wrong with you? We have seen it 3 times and every other time we enjoyed it even more. This is the braying of the jackal. And you feel, I think I need to take care of this situation. I have to see Bahubali or some other movie and so on. Similarly, you find that somebody says, you go to their house and they have this huge 70-inch Samsung, which is 4K. And then your spouse says, hey honey, I think this is nice, it should get that. He says, no, you know what? We don't watch that much TV anyway. Let them get it, it's okay. But she says, no. My friend was telling me that it's on sale from Costco, the 4K version. And it's on sale until Easter. It's only 2 weeks left. So then you say, well, I have to get that then. My spouse also wants it. Perfectly fine. The TV was working and so on. You didn't have to even spend any money. But just because your friend bought it, you have to buy it. This is the braying of the jackal, the howling of the jackal. It bothers you and you need to silence that view. All desires are exactly like that, really speaking. The desires are a pinprick in you, and until you satisfy it, this is our life. And so the Shastra comes up and says, you have to wake up your viveka. And nothing will help you until you decide you are the boss. With the help of the Shastra, you have to defeat even the Ahamkara. Use that for your own good. You were given the Ahamkara to conquer the world, not just be involved in the enjoyment of the world, because you're missing out on something much bigger than that. Here, Sri Krishna also says, this is an important verse, and I think we should just commit to memory, really. So this is in the sixth chapter. Fifth verse of the sixth chapter, which I think most of you already know this. It says, Uddharet atmana atmanam, na atmanam avasadayet, atmaiva hya atmano bandhu, atmaiva ripuratmanaha. Uddharet atmanam, Uddharet atmana atmanam, na atmanam avasadayet, atma eva hi atmano bandhuhu, atma eva ripuhu atmana. This is the verse. So it says, may you be your own best friend. Make your mind serve you. Do not become your own worst enemy of making sure that the closely associated courtiers are working against you. Nothing can really help you. Not your eyes, not the world, no nothing, if you allow them to bother you. You have to be your own best friend by making sure that your viveka is woken up. You have the skill to do the viveka, and you do not allow your courtiers, especially your ahamkara, to bother you, to obstruct you. So here, this is a very important thing. I think you've already been, many of the acharyas you've been listening to. It says that we allow, the world cannot bother us until we participate. Swami Viditatmananda is very fond of saying that. There is an interesting story that was recited by Swami Maheshanandji. So, in India, as you know, the various sadhus, swamis and sadhus, let's say sadhus, but they may not be swamis. They are mendicants. They are supposed to eat by begging only, not cooking on their own. This is their lifestyle. Once you take sannyasa, you allow the society to support you. You're not. The idea is not to do things yourself, because look at the idea. Idea is not to do things by yourself, because if you do that, you are competing against somebody else who may not be as fortunate. And so this is kind of like a robbing Peter to pay Paul. So you're not supposed to do that. You can, whatever is given to you, you take it. Hopefully it's an excess. So this is the normal method. And growing up in Amritsar, I know we had a house with a compound in the back, kind of like a backyard. And the backyard opened up to a big lane. So there were houses whose backyard opened up to the lane. And in this lane, there will be people traveling because the main road was too busy. And so there won't be really a lot of hawkers selling their vegetables and so on. So the back road was used as a business for selling things, for buying things and so on. And in there, the various sadhus will come at lunchtime or dinner time asking for bhiksha. And they will all have a kind of a particular way of knocking on the door. Tuck, tuck, tuck. Or they will say, Mai. Mai means the lady of the house, or some kind of a sound they would make. And the lady of the house will then get up and then give them whatever the custom is, either some rice, generally speaking, uncooked food they would give them, not cooked food they would give. Some rice or some atta, some sabzi, some vegetables, etc. So this story is about a sadhu who was going around asking for bhiksha, accompanied by two of his brahmacharis. So he himself was a sadhu, a ochre-colored sadhu, maybe a swami, and he had a couple of brahmacharis along with him. So as they were going, one of the brahmacharis said, Sir, this house, there is supposed to be a very tough guy. He doesn't really easily give bhiksha to people. I think we should skip it. So the sadhu says, no, I think we should give him the opportunity. You never know. He might be in a good mood or whatever. I think we should just ask for it. All he can say is no. So they said, Bhiksha dehi. So this guy opened the door and he started shouting obscenities to this guy. You sadhus, you do nothing in life. All you do is begging and do some work and this, that or the other. And so this Swami, this sadhu, was just quietly listening to it. And the brahmacharis were saying, Sir, let's just go. So he said, No, let him say all the things. Then the person got quiet. So the sadhu said, Sir, is that all you have to say? He says, No, I have some more things to say. You're this crowds of the earth and you are just terrible people, and why do you bother us? I don't want you to do this again and again, and so on and so forth. So these brahmacharis were saying, what is wrong with our sadhu? He is not really moving from here. He's getting all of these obscene language thrown at him. This is not good. Why is he doing that? And the sadhu was not moved from there. So he completely said, Sir, anything else that you have to tell me? He said, I don't have anything more to tell. He shut the door and he just said, okay. So the brahmacharis asked him, said, Sir, we have a question. Why did you do that? Didn't we tell you that this guy, this is a reputation like this. He doesn't give the alms to anybody. And why did we have to sit there and take it all in. He said, if you go to a shop and you ask a person, please display your wares. I want to see what you've got. And he's got a big shop of different things. And if he just says one thing and then he says, now go. He says, no, but I want to see everything that you've got. At least a good sample of everything that you got. And so until I see everything that you go, you cannot decide whether I should buy it or not. Isn't it? Supposing you go someplace and you only are given a fraction of the goods that he has. There may be some other goods that are better. So I wanted to give him the opportunity to really show me everything which is there in his mind. What was there in the mind is not good. So I don't have to buy it. I don't have to buy it. But there is no harm in having him display his goods to me. Because it's very possible that he may have had a streak of, after a while he might have said, all right, I guess it should be you. So I might buy that. But if he is giving me all these obscenities, I will say I'm not going to buy that. That doesn't bother me. I'm not going. This is not for me. Not for me. And he says, Brahmacharis, I wanted to give you that lesson. This is how your life should be. What the world gives you, you don't bother. It is what you intake yourself that really gives you shoka and moha. So until you participate and you buy it, and it's a terrible thing that you bought, and you don't like it, and then you throw it away, let it be. Don't buy it. Don't be a buyer. Let the world be. This is a very good advice, honestly speaking. And one that I have utilized more and more in my own life. Because I think what happens is that because we are insecure, that's the word I was looking for. We are basically insecure. We are looking for the world's agreement. We're looking for the world to praise us because I'm not sure that I'm praiseworthy by myself. And so if I'm not, I look for situations that make me look praiseworthy. Here's the part. This is the situation. So I'm actually hungry for goods. And if they don't come to me, if those goods are not there, I still partake them and it hurts me. Because it increases my sense of self-doubt. My worth continues to go down. And I find that sometimes if there are people who disagree with me or who don't appreciate me, I somehow would take that personally. There's no reason to do so. You are what you are. You are very beautiful. You are very worthy. And if you just discover the wealth in yourself, just be busy in discovering Ishvara in yourself. Just be busy. Just be totally consumed If you do that, you will find a way to increase your self-worth to a point where if something quite unpleasant seems to happen, you don't take that in. You don't absorb it. You let it be what it is. It is their problem. I find that more and more I begin to really sympathize with other people and say, this is their problem. My gosh, he has not really understood himself yet. And he's criticizing me for something, and so be it. It's okay. Maybe there are some things that I do need to change, no doubt about it. And I will do it to a certain extent, whatever is doable for me. But I'm not going to evaluate myself on somebody else's opinion about myself. I don't have to buy that. I don't have to buy that, because if a person has defective goods to sell, so to speak, under this example that we saw, I don't have to buy it. I can just walk away from it. And it is a very interesting observation in this example that Maheshananji said. So you see, this is the thing. Supposing that we have brahmacharis who are cringing, who are saying, "Oh my gosh, this guy is giving us so much grief. We should just move away from here." So this is exactly where you are not tolerant of anything bad that is happening. Whereas the Mahatma was a very secure person. He says, let him just spew his venom. If that's all that he's got, he has no soft-heartedness and so on, that tells me something about him. I'm very sorry about him. And nothing to do with me. After it's all finished, then I will just move away and go to the next one. So this kind of, this is the crux of it really all. It's a very important lesson. That the world can attempt to bother me, but I don't absorb it because of my viveka. This is how the shoka. So, moha and shoka now can be analyzed. These two words can be analyzed. So, moha equals anatma buddhi as atma. I was just reading a Gita explanation by Swami Shankarananda on 8th chapter. I was just finishing up the 8th chapter today, verse number I think 26 or 27, where this word moha comes up, and he defines it again and again, several times. Moha means you are taking something which is not you to be yourself. Atmani anatma buddhi. Atmani in the Atma, anatma buddhi. Anatmanam, atmana, just as this verse in Gita also says. So this is the definition of moha. The moha means lack of viveka, where you're not able to distinguish what is you and what is not you. So in some ways, for example, if you're dreaming as a dreamer, there also is a lack of viveka, because you're not awake to your own reality yet. This is called shoka. This is called moha. And then shoka means you are unnecessarily taking a bullet onto your own heart. You are absorbing what the world has to give you, which you don't need to absorb. Let it be on their own. And so the two of them go together. So the world can interact you with only with your own anatma, which is your own mind, your own buddhi, your own body, and so on. But if you understand that's not me, and so here, so if you go back to the original one, where we said that arudhasya viveka ashvam. Now we can close the loop on that. Arudhasya viveka ashvam. So this viveka which gives rise to moha, which means this is a wrong understanding that this is me, when in fact you are something different from this. You are the pure Atma, as we will see in more detail later. So you're taking that to yourself. And as a result of that, the shoka which you can block, you are absorbing it unnecessarily. So this is the this is called what was the second part? Tivra vairagyam khadgina. Tivra vairagyam here means very sharp vairagya. Sharp vairagya based on jnanam. See, it's not a question that you need to be very strong. It's just that you don't need to absorb it unnecessarily. Swami Dayananji had given this example. He said, sometimes if you are a new person in an office, and you are kind of like low person on the totem pole, and there are other bosses, and so on. And then you pass by. This doesn't happen in the US very much more in India, where, namaste to the top boss is a very important thing. And say, hello sir, how are you? You call everybody by sir. So here also you just say, you can always go by and say, hi John. And the John makes kind of like he doesn't only not acknowledge you, but he kind of makes a strange face. You come back and he says, oh my God, I think my job is in jeopardy. I asked him this morning to say, hello John, and the John, instead of not responding, was making funny faces. I think I'm in deep trouble. It spoils your whole day. When in fact, Swamiji says it's very possible that he was about to sneeze and the sneeze didn't come. But your face got distorted to a point. And then he could not say, excuse me also, because the sneeze was completely innocent reason. Had nothing to do with you. This is what needs to happen. There's nothing to do with me. I need to just be secure as to who I am. And the more, and so this is exactly the third one, which is vartma yuktasya. So you must have the armor that if some small problems come up and so on, slough it away. That happens. You cannot believe how happy your life will be. And it's a push-pull kind of a thing. The more successful you are in the sadhana, the clearer the goal will become. And the clearer the goal, the better the sadhana becomes. So this push-pull of sadhana sadhya becomes a great way to move. Pratiyogi na vidyate. There is no obstruction for that person. Okay, so We didn't quite finish all of this, but I want to underscore one thing in my notes. And that is the role of the Ahamkara in blocking my way to the freedom. So in the story of that the crying of the jackal, of the king who was really pramadi, he was a pramadi king. He was not taking care of his kingdom. He doesn't have the reins of the whole place in him. He was just allowing people to run. The biggest culprit was the Pradhan Mantri, who was the chief minister. So also it is said in our life, and this is something we have to really think about slowly, it's not going to happen overnight, is that, our Shastra takes many times. It gives us the advice many times. You must control your mind. You must have it under your own. All of that is given continuously. The more important thing there is confront the Ahamkara more than the people that work for the Pradhan Mantri. The others are also mantris. Eyes, ears, sense organs, organs of action, they're all mantri. So they're courtiers. They're kind of like MLAs, cabinet ministers. But the Pradhan Mantri, the chief minister, who's really blocking your progress is your Ahamkara. Because you are something more. You are the Raja. You are the king, and the Pradhan Mantri works for you. The Pradhan Mantri was presented to you by Ishvara to run the show. And this show will not be complete until you understand you are the Raja, not the Ahamkara. You're something more than the Pradhan Mantri. Pradhan Mantri means chief minister. You're something more than the chief minister. This is an important thing that we need to really think about. So instead of just simply controlling our mind and so on, we have to examine the reality of the Ahamkara. How real is it? And it's not real at all. Because it disappears at night time. How real can it be? So this is the ultimate conclusion of this story. Is there a need to re-examine the relationship with the Ahamkara, the me, and to call its bluff is an important self-effort that we need to have. And until I take responsibility through the inquiry and the subjugation of my Ahamkara, I won't see the kind of progress which is promised to me. So we will spend some more time thinking about it. But these are the stories that culminate in the relationship between moha and shoka, between samsara and between ahamkara and buddhi. To me, the Atma, which is the Raja. Okay. So with that, let me close the class. Om Asato Ma Satgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityor Ma Amritam Gamaya Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Quite right, Zarina. Anyway, welcome back from Dubai. And you're absolutely right. And so, this is an advice that we have to practice on. And the truth of it is presented by the Shastra. Because, this is one thing to understand is this is not like what cannot be cured must be endured. This is not like that. It's not a question of enduring something. But the fact of the matter is that it's a very peculiar thing that you cannot see the truth of it until you see the effect of making it practical in your life. So it's a push-pull, again, this is what I was saying earlier. It's a push-pull between sadhana and sadhya. Sadhya is what is to be seen clearly. What is to be seen clearly is that my nature is independence of problems. This is what I need to see. This is the nature of the Atma. I don't see it yet. But I won't see it clearly until I take some portions of it and see its applicability in my life. I don't know, I'm just making this example up, that you don't know if this is made of completely of sugar until you take some portions of it and taste it and say, yes, this part is also sugar, that part is also sugar. In the sense that if you practice not being bothered by the world, and initially it could be that it is due to force, some effort. I think another example really is where I think those kinds of examples are very useful. It's learning to swim versus swimming. Until you mimic the swimming to that degree, but you still think that I am struggling to swim, that effort will not become effortless until some time where you swim without doing an effort. So the sadhana is making an effort, and sadhya is still doing it without any effort. So the sadhya has to be supported by the appropriate sadhana. And so to close the loop, as Zarina was pointing out, that use this as an experiment. Ishvara, call Ishvara and say, okay, give me some bad situations, Ishvara, so that I can confront it. You don't have to ask for it, it'll come. And then just observe your own reaction and recall the truth about it, that how you are participating, how you are taking it in. And so slowly, one step at a time, and it will build up. It will build up your confidence, your ability to see the truth of it, to a point where you don't have to do that anymore. There is an inner smile. You don't have to really worry about anything outside. In the text on Kaivalya Upanishad that we are doing, in this one section that was written, by Swami Viditatmananda, where you say that don't let the world bother you, just take it in, and it's all right. So the doubt is, Swamiji, if I let the world take me in on anything, they will take advantage of it. So Swamiji says, okay, so you can pretend to a certain degree. You can pretend it, it's okay. You can pretend, hey, don't talk to me like that. You can say that, that's okay. Internally, however, there's an internal versus external. If you want to make sure that you have a reasonably good relationships and so on, then you can actually talk back. This is an advantage, because once you are secure, you can say to people gently, hey, why are you telling these to me? Okay, I mean, I am what I am, it's okay. So you can talk back. You cannot say just, okay, I'm sorry. You don't have to do that. You can talk back a little bit. Internally, however, you have a smile, mind's smile, which says, I am not bothered. You can tell me anything you want to. You don't know what I am. You don't know who you are, and you don't know who I am. If you knew, you wouldn't be saying that. It's your issue, not mine. So in that way, I think that this is a good advice, that if you want to pretend as though you are upset, pretend. But internally, you know you're not really upset. You are just pretending you're upset. Something like that. Yeah, I think this is making our vyavahara. Vyavahara means our transactional reality, our transactional level of life. Reflect the paramarthika satyam, the absolute truth. To reflect in the vyavahara is where the life becomes very pleasant. So it doesn't mean that you are, even after you understand this to a certain degree, that you remain aloof from the world. You don't need to do that. You need to be aloof as much as you want to be. But again, I think the go back and forth. This is Prarabdha versus Kamiya. See, Prarabdha versus Kanya is a very important distinction. We must be very clear about it. So Prarabdha means that whatever has happened, you have to go through with it. But you don't have to do new things that are based on your own sense of insecurity. I'll give you an example. Let's say you have, I don't know how many you all have, but you probably have about 100, 200 friends. Okay? Now, to deal with the 100 friends that you have, or maybe 20, or not, you're not dealing with all of them, but whatever the number you have, is appropriate. If you call them and you talk to them and you're nice to them based on it. But do you really need at this stage of your life to start making new friends? Going out of your way to get new? Probably not. To the extent that you are secure in yourself as to who you are, happy with yourself, all your effort should be to service your existing contacts, not to make any new ones at that point. You're not afraid to do it. If you meet someone, by all means say hello to them and so on. But this anxiousness to have new people to know and to appreciate and so on, is it necessary? You have to ask yourself. So that's the Kamya karma, and the having a great relationship with your current friends and so on, past friends and these friends, is Prarabdha karma. So that distinction is important, because emotionally you are fulfilling the world's desire to be with you. Ishvara's program in your life as to who you're working with, who are your friends, fulfill it. But you don't need to really develop more strings that you have to service. Anyway, I'm just going on, but anyway, that's part of it. Okay, if there's no other questions per se, we will close this class and we will see you next week. Hari Om.